what Rob said is perfectly true. And the giant problem began when FDR was in office, and they were in the process of continuing to expand the federal government, okay? And what he said about can the federal government manage anything? Not very many things, and for damn sure is if it has anything to do with your personal life, it's going to be tough on you. So that was a scam to begin with, okay? It was never changed, and of course it was going to have to get to the point where it couldn't be afforded, but to have it to be done right, it needs to go to the state, because the state, as he pointed out, is the only one that can handle it with any chance of coming out right, because the closer the government is to you, the better the government is for you. It works that way.
Congressman Bishop and I are going to agree a lot on some of these issues, but I think one of the things we have to do immediately is raise the retirement age. And I know everybody flips out about that, but it was designed to be a benefit package in addition to your regular retirement, and it was we didn't live as long, so it was designed to be a 6 or 7 year program, and now it's a 20-year program. So we've got to do something to raise the retirement age immediately. Social Security is the biggest problem, though. It's really Medicare and Medicaid. And with Obamacare being in that pie, we're seeing that our spending in, I think it's 2025, all of our spending will be Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and interest on the debt. That's it. There's not going to be money for defense. There's not going to be money for anything else. Every 40 cents of every dollar we spend right now is borrowed anyway. So we have to do some of these tough decisions right now. And we can't do anything with the people that are already on Social Security. We've already created that contract. But we have to be honest to ourselves. When they do austerity measures in Greece, there's riots in the streets. Well, I don't think Americans are like that. I think we're willing to say, look, if it saves this for the future, if we're going to save this at all, I'm willing to do the hard thing and not take retirement until I'm 70, then that's what we do. Because we're Americans and we believe in doing the right thing because it's the right thing to do.
But it takes leadership.
That's right.
It requires leadership.
Yes.
Congressman Bishop, I want to shift our topic to lands. And I would like you to tell us a little more about your chairmanship with the 10th Amendment Task Force. I applaud you for that, but I'd like to hear a little bit more. How often does it meet? Who's involved? And then the second part of that question, more importantly, how will you champion Utah's newly signed House Bill 148?
Okay, a couple of things. Task Force has 10, we went on the number 10, BQ. So we have 10 original members. There's actually 85 members that are part of the task force. Every week we come up with our top 10 bills that we will present for people to sign on to and to push. So we're doing that with 10. We're going to reestablish it a little bit more this fall when we get back in there again. I want to do an outreach that we have not done before because we have yet to work that closely with the states, especially NCSL and ALEC and the State Governors Association. We want to try and coordinate those efforts because they've got to be able to receive and be willing to receive programs we want to give back to them if we're going to give them back to them. So when it comes to land, the 10th Amendment Task Force doesn't actually play around with that. But the Western States Caucus does, and what we're attempting to do. I'm not going to show you all the stuff we have. When we were, yes I will. And I'll do this really fast. By the way, what she said about Social Security and Medicare, that's exactly right. And the Ryan budget actually starts moving that age group back, but it's the right thing to do. I have showed this picture to some of my friends in the West, or in the East, and they always, yeah, it serves me right for not putting it back in order. And they always say, like, wow. Okay, the blue is the amount of private property in these 3 states. I picked Ohio and Virginia for obvious reasons back in the leadership there. The blue is all the private property that's developable and taxable in Ohio. The blue in Utah, that's all the legislature gets to play with in Utah. That's the private property. Everything else is owned by government, most of it the federal government. Easterners will always look at that stuff and go, wow, I didn't know that. And then in the back of their minds they're saying, so what? So what we've got to try and do is try to convince them that they have to realize these things differently. In the 1960s, the Park Service realized if they could get more parks out there, you could actually get more money from the government because you'd have congressmen in each district. Right now, the parks only have about 13% of what the government controls, but they're in 49 of the 50 states. BLM land is 41% of everything, and it's all here in the West. So it means that when you're talking to an Easterner about public lands, it's a perception problem. They think about a pretty tree by a lake. That's a park. When we think of public lands, it's sagebrush that can be developed. So the first thing is there is a mindset difference, and that's what we're trying to teach people back there, is that I'm going on with other Westerners. We're doing our missionary work, actually, to go office by office and let them know that there is a difference to them, but two other aspects which are getting their attention now. They pay for it. To pay for the control of the West, Easterners put out $8 to $9 billion every year. And as our budgets get tighter, we're showing them, look, you can keep that stupid concept you have of what is public lands, you're paying for it. That gets their attention. And then we show them that the states that have all the public lands, the red stuff, are the states that can't fund their education system. And it works out to this difference. It's almost twice as much money for education in the East as here in the West. They have kids. This stuff they care about. Now, what I like about what the state legislature did is because for years we've been saying it's not fair, it's sovereignty right, and no one back East cares. Now, all of a sudden, they care about what they're spending. They care about how they're screwing over our kids. It's resonating, and the state legislature did two things different. They decided to come up with a committee that was going to be meeting every week to come up with a matrix of how the state would manage the land. Some land should be preserved, a state wilderness category. Some should be open for multiple use, including recreation, which this administration is trying to shut down. And some is developable. So that you actually, when we say, okay, let's give the land back to Utah or other western states, they are ready with a system in line to take it and manage it. So it's going to be easy to try and sell that. And the second thing is, if it comes to a court case, what the courts don't give you ideas on the issue. They answer the question you ask them. So far, we have lost the cases on the questions we've asked. What the state of Utah wants to do is ask different questions and force the federal government to sue the state. So it's a totally different venue. So I'm excited about what the state's trying to do in 148. I want to work with them as well. We're going to do the same kind of PR stuff on the side, on the federal level, because it is time for a paradigm shift. We are on the cusp of people thinking differently about public lands than they've ever done before. I think we are actually at the point where we can win this case, finally. We're asking different questions, we're giving different approaches, and it's making headway. And I'm excited about what the state is doing. I support what they're doing, and I want to be able to support them with everything we can possibly do back there. And the Western Caucus is dedicated to doing that.
Okay, I'll stand up again. I really like the idea of what the state legislature did as well. I noticed that we went from 2 million acres of oil shell development to about less than 500,000 just in recent years. They've pulled so much of our developable land away from us to let us even be sovereign states. We are literally vassals to the federal government because if they control our resources, they control us. And I think it's really important that we do get these western states congressmen and women involved, and then we, again, get the people to push it hard enough that they'll do the right thing, and we won't just be asking for Utah land back, but you ask for western states' lands completely, and you get whatever you can take. If you can get 10%, that's a start. If you can get 15%, you can get 2%. I mean, we'll take anything we can get at this point because we need our lands to be able to become sovereign again, because that's where our resources are, and that's what creates jobs and it creates revenue. North Dakota has a 2% unemployment rate because they have their lands, they're able to drill, and they've got a booming market now, and you can't get a job there, and McDonald's is like 20 bucks an hour. You can't work there for less than 20 bucks an hour, and everybody's getting paid well, of course. Standard of living's a little higher right now, it's a lot to go rent an apartment, but they're doing what they need to do to develop their lands, and I think it's really important that we do that in Utah as well. The other thing we need to do is defund these departments that are controlling our land, because Congress holds the purse strings, and Congress has to have the courage to say, this is an unconstitutional department, and you don't get our money anymore. I think that's what we do.
The only thing I could add to what has been said, I agree with all of it. It's great. It's the right direction. The only thing I can add to that is I'm very, very much impressed with Morgan Philpott. He's running for governor, and one of the things that he said that he would do is he would take as a governor, what he would do, the first thing is to go in and take over the federal land, take it. Okay? Take it first and then apologize later and go to court with it and prove the fact that that land should have been given to us 100 years ago. And that the facts are there, the federal government has reneged on their contract a long time ago and they're still reneging on it. And to me, that method of going in and taking it makes all the sense makes all the sense to me, and I hope he does it.
The Indians want it that way, didn't they?
The Indians want it that way.